Welcome to the Checkmate. We welcome you to yet another episode of this wonderful podcast, the Checkmate UG, where we break down the stories that make news and have made news in Uganda and even the countries around us.
Yes.
This is yet another beautiful episode of the week ending 29th September. And we are here to tell you what has been going on and what it means in the grand scheme of things in Uganda and beyond. And as usual, I'm your host, Harold Turije, with my wonderful friend...
Nicholas Nwamanya. Glad to be here today for another episode of the Checkmate.
As usual, I never want to make you dig deep into what is going on in the country without first asking how you are and how your week has been.
Well, it's been a busy week. We have been well personally and been following the events that have occurred this week that will shape the history, the future of this country. So glad for this episode and looking forward to delve into what it all means.
We will dig right into what we are here to discuss, and we are discussing the intelligence sellout, where some rumors broke out about our intelligence operations and apparatus in the country. We are discussing, of course, the 2026 elections. We are discussing the signs of transition and how likely the political future is going to shape out after the 2026 elections, the Muhoozi project, the post-Museveni rule in Uganda. We will tell you what has unfolded that might have an impact on that story. We are also going to be discussing opposition politics in Uganda in light of who has been nominated to stand against the incumbent President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And we'll also be discussing the abductions and other security stories, including and with a specific attention to the story of Sam Mugumya. That said, Nicholas,
Yes.
Let's start with what we call the intelligence sellout. And for those who have not had a chance to know what that story revolves around, we have had a storm sweeping around the Defense Intelligence and Security. That is what was formerly known as the CMI.
Yes.
And the story around the corners and in the corridors suggests that that CMI, now what they call DAIS, there was a probe team that was set by the first son, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, in his capacity as a CDF, to unmask what has now come out as a conspiracy for what Ugandans first knew as bomb threats. And specific attention has been given to three notable stories, with the first bomb threat being the one at Munyonyo during the Uganda Matters, the Munyonyo Shrine. That was closely followed by another bomb threat at Kalere Market. In those two stories, the alleged suicide bombers were put out of action, and it involved two ladies who were shot down after the alleged bomb threats. In fact, later intelligence has come to show that one of the ladies that was actually shot down at the Kalere Market was a daughter of another suicide bomber that had been shot out, I think, around 2022. And there was another story linked to the bombs that were discovered at Rubaga Miracle Center at Pastor Kayanja's church, which all have apparently turned out to be fake and that were masterminded by the ex-boss of the chief of CMI, that is
General
Virungi. And when the CDF, the story in the corridors is that when the CDF discovered that conspiracy, he first took out these notable faces and redeployed them. Specifically, General Virungi was put in Fort Poto,
the mountain
yes, for
brigade.
Operation Shuja, and actually made, I think, a general attaché in Burundi. And during that time,
Military attaché.
yes, during that time they were doing investigations, and it later came out that when they got the junior officers that were involved, they castigated their boss, and he has since been arrested, and that has been confirmed by the spokesperson, Felix Kulaije Afande, and it's a story that is unfolding. I don't know what you have to say about that, and what Ugandans should read in light of those unfortunate facts.
Well, I think that one, I really, really want to applaud the CDF on that front. You see, a force or an army that is supposed to protect the citizens and their property, that being the chief role of that army or entity, and they end up being the ones to scheme to put the very people they are mandated to protect in danger.
In their money-making scheme.
Yes, and to go as far as not just fraud, this simple fraud, overpricing budgets, to go as far as murder. I think it is a very, very, very bad situation that we find ourselves in. And that's why we must applaud the CDF, you know, for all the efforts that are going on underway. And that didn't stop there, went to engineering brigade for corruption.
Yeah, true.
He is trying to make sure that discipline returns to the army. And an army like the UPDF is the central entity in the regime of NRM.
That's true.
Because the NRM comes from NRA.
Actually, UPDF transitioned from the NRA.
Yeah, from the NRA. Even the regime of the NRM.
That's true.
The roots of the NRM, of the current regime, stems from NRA.
That's true.
Which later became UPDF, which stems from FRONASA, you know. So the root, you know, and as you know, the regime has progressed, we have seen the army continue to play a more central role, like we are going to be discussing later when we come to campaigns. Yes. How the army and the security organs have continued to play a central role in consolidating this regime for this long, for 40 years plus. So Museveni cannot risk that the very thing that should protect him and his regime,
or his number one selling point being peace, that is orchestrated by the UPDF, has been put in
jeopardy,
in question for the first time for the citizens. That because if you ask a normal Ugandan why, especially the supporters of the Yellow Camp, they will tell you the man came with peace, and that's a representation of the role and the mandate of what he calls the People's Army, the UPDF. So if you have those stories breaking out of an army that has done a lot to build the people-army relationship, it's really, really bad.
And Harold, I want us to be fair and say that for so many years, honestly speaking, the UPDF was a very disciplined army. That's why even from the onset, when they took power in 86, one of the first army commanders in 88 was General Salim Sare. I think General Salim Sare must have been one of the most brilliant commander. Maybe by Regema, that's a debate. We can have another day. One of the most brilliant commanders of the year of the war. War ended when he was about 26 years, and he took over the army when he was about maybe 28 in 1988. But in just about a year, the brother realized that this person, I can't control them. I can't control the excesses. They are my brother.
I get you.
You know, but they are not the best fit for what?
For this role.
For this role. Because he needed someone who, first of all, can professionalize the army, but also, secondly, can, you know, be accountable, you know, and lead an army in their righteous pursuits. General Salim Sare was not very educated. I think that was one of the, but also those scandals, Museveni could not take them for something that he knew was going to be the central point of his role. So that's how he comes from there. And then I think Eddie Tumine, was it before or after then we have Mugisha Muntu for a long time. So that's the kind of character that you want at the you know, at the top of an army. It's a person like Mugisha Muntu, you know, someone that is really, really righteous in the wrong direction, in the right direction, and everything spins out of his, you know, his heart that he does. But later, the problems started, I think, with Kaihura at the helm of police. When General Kaihura came at the helm of police, that was the first time, and that's why later we're going to later we're going to discuss the policemen, the policemen that are in court.
I get you.
His people that Minana and Nixon Agasirwe, and why they are in court, and why so many fingers
are pointing
to their boss,
to their godfather,
you know, and why that was the time when so many things started to, budgets began to be inflated, so many operations that people started to question so many people are still questioning the attacks on Chad Dondo. They're questioning so many operations there that happened, so many things. I'm not saying...
There's a very interesting article by Tim Kadiajira about those bombs and what he says the real story is, and what was broadcast and what is in the news, and even for the people that were charged. And for the first time when these bomb scares came out, he just reposted this article and said, guys, it has taken me long to be vindicated. But though this is not a concrete proof of what I was talking about, the 2010 bombings, it's in the direction of what I was saying, of how the security operatives, for selfish and actually capital reasons, basically, sometimes forge out these stories. And it sells out the good name that they had built over time with what you're talking about.
Yes, and also the fact that the bombs happened, and the person... Joan Kagezi, who was investigating them, prosecuting, and she was taken out by the same people now that are senior policemen. So you want to ask, what was the police trying to hide?
And in fact, you see, when you read the Joan Kagezi police file, you will be interested to know that the police ballistics, found out that the bullets that were gotten out of on the scene were fired by the same gun that was involved in the killing of the Muslim clerics.
So you can see. So I think that is the starting point. And on the parallel, the people, why it took so long for them to come out is most of the people at that time that reigned over the army. You see, Kayihura was an NRA, came from the bush. He wielded significant power, actually almost yielding more power than the CDF at the time. He would de facto, in security matters, be the president's number 2 in people who really wielded power around that time. So it became really, really hard for these other security organs that were as if under the police was so big then that CMI, CID, whatever, it had to take Museveni bringing in the Kandihos, and this other gentleman, what was his name?
The one who passed on?
No. There was a gentleman.
Sabit Muzei?
No, not Sabit. The gentleman whose son got involved in a murder.
Oh, yes. I forget the name, but I know the gentleman.
So it had taken
Kaka.
General Kaka. It had to take Museveni to bring Kaka agenda and they can to really stand up to Kayihura and start to question. And that was the very time when Kayihura was what?
Yes.
Was put aside. So I think that it's a very wonderful thing that the CDF is doing, but also remember he is doing it not because he is CDF, but because he is the son of Museveni. Nobody can question him. So many people knew in that time that Kayihura was wrong, but the power that he yielded could not allow him.
Would start anywhere to try to bring him to book.
The position of General MK makes him able to actually take down anyone, everyone. No one is safe with him, No one is safe with him because he has additional power.
Yes, he's not just a little bit above the system.
He's not just CDF. Because, General David Muhoozi could not have arrested Kayihura or started to arrest these other generals. Yes, you are the CDF, but there is an extra element that being the son of the president brings to him. So the pursuit that he's on is really righteous.
So for the first time, the imperfection of the system is an advantage.
Yes. Honestly, the imperfection of the system has advantaged us. That, but because someone that really, really gets into murder, that is extreme. Let's scheme in parliament, budgets are added, what, in all ways, but murder.
For me, what
I think murder it goes really, really deep.
This story is over 3 weeks old. This gentleman was, of course, in a press conference as announced by the spokesperson that he was arrested. But we have not had any news coming from that camp since the gentleman being charged or anything since their arrest over 21 days ago. Does it speak also to, and of course, in light of what you are discussing, because the viewers must know that this army that we are talking about has had very many wins, because you have NEC, that is doing roads, that is making water.
That's the engineering brigade.
Yes, NEC. Then there's also the one that
the Kapeka thing.
Yes, that
the industry
is doing water, it's doing toothpaste, it's doing
they're even doing military,
condoms,
even
yes,
military,
everything, yes, military wear.
wear, yeah.
And that is saving a little bit on, of course, even on our import-export balance. And they have just enrolled and rolled out a hospital in Buya, where the headquarters were, to get close to the people. You see what they've been doing in Tarehe Sita, the activities to get to the people. But if you have these stories breaking out, it somehow waters down what they have been doing to build their name and what Museveni thinks of what the army should stand for. Because at least you credit that for Museveni's how the army should be and what he has been doing to ensure that that face is maintained.
I think Museveni, really from the start, his desire had been even to change the name from NRA to UPD, People's Defense Force. It had to have an element of the force is actually defending the people and the constitution, not the leadership.
Yeah,
we can discuss that later.
State.
But that was the mind, and there's the really viral video of the late Mayombo speaking about it when they tabled it in Parliament back in the day. This was supposed to be a people's army, and I think that to a large extent it has been. But the imperfections, I think, of the place where the army and the regime started to really start to merge is the place when we lost it. Because also Kaihura was a victim of that kind of connivance, because he reigned at a time when walk to work, when he was tasked with walk to work, bring down walk to work, bring down BSJ, arresting. So when that convergence happened between the regime and the army, so many things began to become compromised, because you cannot be independent when you have a side. You just can't have your bread and eat it.
I just put it to two things as we conclude this. One is the merging of the roles of a national army and a national police. World over, the role of the police is to maintain law and order. Yes. And in the ambit of that role is curbing down protests, opposition activities. That's understandable because it's within the ambit of a national police. The National Guard is to defend the boundaries of the nation and any attack that is related not to just law and order, but the security apparatus of the state. The issue we had is that once the police was not trained enough to handle law and order, they thought they could compensate with the National Guard. And you could even tell with the appointments that were done systematically by Museveni on who was leading the police and how the Karikihuras came through, because it was General Eli Wamala. Wamala before, because it was Wamala before, and then Kihura. In that, because that's when you had the infamous Wembley.
Yes, under General Kayanja.
Yes, under General Kayanja. It's also around the same time where they are trying to compensate for the failures of the police to try to protect the state and opposition activities. And that's where the decade starts from.
Yes.
And we are reaping the fruits of that seed that was implanted in, where the army, instead of protecting the people, was coming in to protect the state and the power. And anything that does not threaten the power, it was okay. But as long as there was, and because if we had time, we would even talk about how we got to the border 2010s, to this CPAPA with a lot of power, civilians given guns to just do a lot of havoc, and no one is touching them as long as they were in line with what was protecting the state. And that's where the danger started from.
Yes, of course. And those dangers have not ceased. What the CDF is doing is not to take the army back to where it used to be. No, it's just rooting out bad elements in only as far as corruption in the army is concerned and those other things. But to say that let's restore the mandate of the army to just protect the borders of the country,
that's a fire.
That's a different topic. And I mean, even in nominations.
What's the best case scenario of this, as we conclude this? What's the best case scenario out of this that we are discussing? What ought to be done?
The best case scenario, what ought to be done is, first of all, for the population to see the people being prosecuted. Let them court-martial them, you know. I was reading about another gentleman, I forget his name, who was head of the engineering brigade. And I don't know, because I read it off a blog. I don't trust it. Was, I think, Red Paper or something. But the properties they said the gentleman has.
Yes. Like if they did a lifestyle audit
God.
and the sources of his funds.
You know, sometimes you wonder, why do you want all this for? Maybe we're not ambitious enough, but but if we see those people being prosecuted, you know, the rest of the army officers are also going to know, let's try to act professionally. But I think we have crossed the line where the army can just go back to being the army and let the police handle police things. I think we have crossed that point, and it feeds into the sentiment now around the regime and the ambitions of the same. So I don't think that.
So we wait to see how that story will turn out. We hope that it won't be the first of very many, in light of now later discoveries that shock the citizens. We hope that the National Army will always be the National Army for the peace of this nation and for the sanctity of our boundaries. So we switch the guns to what we have called the ghost of Kaihura's reign.
Yes.
And related to what we were discussing before, we are focusing this, and the case study is the story of Nixon Agasire and a gentleman called Minana. And that senior superintendent of police, SSP Nixon Agasire, who was very vital in Kaihura's reign, with another colleague who were arrested related to the murder of Joan Kagezi, who was a senior prosecutor in DPP's office. And that is a story of 10 years ago. As I think what Ugandans remember most is what Museveni said when he had come at the vigil of the deceased prosecutor, saying that they will do everything possible to bring, and they had castigated other suspects for that case. What we can tell you about that story is that the two gentlemen who have been arrested have been on remand, I think, for over 21 days now. And related to that,
should be more than 21.
Yeah, even more, I think so. And as of Thursday, when they last appeared at the Chief Magistrate's Court of Nakawa, they said that they are not going to appear in court again until investigations are complete. We would need to tell you a little bit of the story, and as I'd quoted behind, when you read the file of Joan Kagezi, the guns that were used during that murder were the same guns that were used in the murder and the stories relating to the Muslim clerics, specifically the one of Sheikh Hassan Kiria, the famous spokesperson of the Uganda Museum Supreme Council. Very vocal gentleman that was killed alongside with other Muslim clerics. At first, this was pushed to the ADF. But now, if we have these stories coming out that these people were involved, it brings to question what was talked about as the story around that. We are also discussing this around the mysterious death of a certain little-known gentleman called Musa Walugembe. May his soul rest in peace. And this was the gentleman that had been put by Uganda police during Besigye's rise to what the Baganda called Kagere Kukagere. Wherever Besigye was, this gentleman was to report what Besigye was doing. This gentleman was found dead in his house in Najanankumbi under mysterious circumstances. And it came around the same time that the Nixons were arrested over the murder. If we are also to give you some context, this gentleman, Nixon, was very close to the former IGP Kade Kaihura. And at one time, the first time they broke news was how they were causing havoc and kidnapping people, allegedly, during their reign. And when they arrested Paul Kagame's bodyguard in Uganda, allegedly tortured him and deported him back to Rwanda, which is one of the stories that led to the closure of the border between Uganda and Rwanda and the complaints that were harbored by the Ugandan government. So my question to you as we discuss that, are we seeing, is this deliberate protection or systematic failure?
Well, I have a double mind about this matter. to be honest. The other day when the former FBI director James Comey was indicted, there were two sentiments.
And they released a video to appeal to the public immediately.
Yes, there were two sentiments.
We digress. Proceed.
The first sentiment was for his victims, that he went after, and these people think that it was unfair because they were pro Trump and all. One gentleman asked, I don't know why they are saying that they are indicting him in the manner of like this. Why can't they FBI wake up at 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m. in the morning, go and raid his home, put him in handcuffs, come with reporters, as the manner in which I was done. These are his victims. And then people under that tweet said that, but this is not the law. Do we be like them? Do we act the same way they acted?
Or we show them the better
way of doing things. So on this matter, honestly, I am of the mind of these guys should pay for their sins. Listen, the Kayihura regime, police force, I think, and it pains me every day that Kayihura walks free. If we can discuss, I wish we could discuss freely, the extent of the pits of the things that Kayihura did.
And the army of victims
exactly
left in the trail
army of victims, those Muslim clerics, the nefarious things that he had to do for budgets, the fictitious enemies he had to create to justify spendings, to justify so many things. I don't think, honestly speaking, that Kale Kayihura should be out with his freedom, walking, and sometimes even claiming that he's a victim.
But before you proceed on that very point, aren't we victims of a populist population? Let me put it that way, because the time that Kayihura was under house arrest and couldn't be released, and you could talk about falling from grace to grass, and the gentleman who could no longer tie his laces and had someone to tie the laces at one point was crying when thieves were stealing his goats in Kashagama at home and could not even have anyone to protect. But discuss how, for example, the people in Kisoro treated the news. You have an investigation going on, and you have people putting the president in a corner to say, this is our son.
It's about Museveni. You see, people have discovered who he is. People have discovered that he needs the population. He is the way he is.
Is that on the president or
yes.
the population?
No, it's on the president. Because listen, if this was happening in a different country like Rwanda, I don't think that a village would come and say, for us, we want our corrupt man to come out.
Our son
of the land to come out. Can that happen? That happens only here and in Kenya. And Kenya, because also Kenya is really, really fractured. Their politics is about...
It's just tribal.
It's tribal. So it is, give our son a job. How do you arrest our son? Everything rotates around. This is our person. And people have understood Museveni to be like that. That's why he's not the only one who people have come out to say, no, you need to release this person. Even when Museveni disagreed with this gentleman who was R00 number 3, what was it? He was...
that was the NRA guys?
Yes, but he was honorary. I forget his name. He was actually in Tare with Museveni. They were close.
That should be Kategaya?
Yes, Kategaya.
Yes.
Well, so Kategaya goes back home after disagreement that took them at Embes and the Mugisha Muntu and this man from Bushenyi,
Amanyamushega, yes.
So when he goes back home, the man life becomes hard because all he had known was working for the state.
Yes, that's true.
He had never fueled his car.
Life outside the system. So
when life becomes hard, the same people Israel start to call Museveni and say, no, you cannot abandon this man here. He's going to die. So, and there are so many stories like that of people coming together to say, no, our person. The last time when Mawanda, really was asked about him, so many billions he stole from the cooperatives.
Yes.
PRU people, mboo.
This is our man. They just even had a demonstration.
Yeah, they had a demonstration. And
it was cleared by police.
Yes. I mean, it's PRU.
Yes.
So the police even
I'm discussing as a Ugandan.
I don't even think the police has, So this has become our culture.
Yeah.
That this is our person, irrespective of how wrong they are, what amount of things they have done, this is our person. But I don't think that really Kayihura should be working. But going back to the issue of Minana and Nixon, these were henchmen. These were not just... Nixon was just a guy. I'm told he was a cobbler in Barra, and he was arrested by Kayanja under Wembley for being a wrongdoer.
Yes.
But then time came in Kayihura's regime when he thought that
I can use these criminals
I can use
as my
to catch a thief, send the local people. That's how an educated man, and these things continue to follow. When you get those kinds of people and give them power. This is how you end up. The Nixon Agasirwes, the guy of Boda Boda 2010, his brutality, when you listen to his victims of his stories, land grabbing, everything, those people should not be walking free. And let me tell you, they will not walk free in the new Uganda. And that one I can promise them. Yeah? So these people became henchmen, of the regime. They became the people that, were sent to do these missions.
Yeah.
The only problem that Kayihura did was, in mafiaism, those are the same people. The term is they know where the bodies are buried.
That's true.
So the people who know where the bodies are buried don't usually live for long. They should even be grateful that the man left them with all the knowledge. Like someone really knows. A person like Minana, who is he?
I know.
But he has intimate knowledge of how...
Of everything dirty about that reign.
Yes, but also about specifically like Kagezi's murder. Yes. And then he lives free, There's a saying that dead men tell no tales, But he lives free to tell the tale now. I think that was a tactical error.
So do you think that
from Kayihura?
Do you think this is a time bomb? It's a stone in the shoe for Kare Kayihura's reign and legacy?
Kare Kayihura has absolutely no legacy. His legacy is legacy of brutality, of corruption. And for me, my biggest problem was that he was a sellout. He was dealing with foreign intelligence to put our country in...
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly, of course. I mean, all these things are allegedly.
Yes, I understand.
For me, that is his prime crime, was dealing with security operatives of which it was a hostile nation. Borders were closed. So many tensions were high, and he was dealing with those hostile... to penetrate.
There's a very interesting story.
That is really...
There's a very interesting story about Kayihura's house arrest that's told by one of the people that at least claim that they have inside information of how the day he was arrested, he wasn't aware that he was going to be arrested. Of course, it was supposed to be a surprise. And someone, of course, being part of the system, calls him and said, "General, they are coming for you." And he was in a hotel that around Lyantonde. What he did is that he got his vehicle, put his phones that were being tracked, and put them in a car and gave them to a gentleman and said, "Start driving towards the Rwanda border." So they kept tracking the phones apparently, and then he took the separate direction, but not knowing that one of the people that were in the camp was communicating with the other people, and that's how they finally got him even after the goose chase. But such a man, in the aftermath of that, and what they claimed was very overwhelming evidence of dealing with a foreign enemy, is forgiven in courts, is actually retired.
That is high treason.
He's released, and he does his legal education and completes it, and he is walking around.
Harold, I think to understand this matter, you have to understand Museveni and Musevenism. When Museveni came to power, he came at the back of regimes that had done so many heinous crimes to Ugandans. And when he reached, he instituted a commission that was led by a justice. I forget his name. It was it?
The Odoki Commission.
Yeah, was it
that was
Odoki?
For the Constitution? Yes.
No, not for the Constitution. This was for Truth and Reconciliation. It was something around... If you have read the book, The Teeth May Smile, but the Hearts Will Not Forget, something like that. There's a book that documents how Museveni as a person is not... Then, I don't know, he's not vengeful. There are so many things, there's so many people. That's why most of those people came back after when they said, "You know what, we are tired. We can't fight anymore. bad conditions. They came back and they settled. Some are here in. These people who used to be henchmen. These are people who killed.
They are around.
These are people who killed. You know, when the Bosch attack in 72, when the Museveni first came back.
Yes.
In 72, the people who arrested those people around Simba Battalion, then now 2nd Division in Bahara, in Makenke, who arrested those people, killed them. What? They came back. They are around. And that commission, some people wanted these people to be arrested. There was that documented case of that gentleman in that book. Yeah. And those of Kare Baraka, I think, were the lawyers of you know. These guys wanted vengeance. Guys wanted, but Museveni is the way he played it. He's not a man that is after, especially when real power has been sucked out of you. You have accepted that, you know what, I am...
You have been disarmed.
You are the Lord Commander. When you have totally been disarmed and made... He's not a person who is interested in pushing. I think his history of Museveni has not been a vengeful. This person did this, let me. The only people Museveni really targets or is hostile to are people who are after his power. But once a man has been disarmed, I mean, you saw the other day on nomination, Gundi, his former,
even Amama
Babas was there, you know. Everyone who has...
Even Kadaga, after saying what she said, was...
But Kadaga is clearly not coming from Museveni's power, but I mean...
Of course, definitely.
You know, but Amama Babas, very humble, there, you know.
And the wife has been played by the NRM tribunal.
So Museveni has not been a very vengeful person. So I will not be surprised if he says, let's rehabilitate Kaihura.
You're actually using the words you could use.
For the sake of, one, restoring the support from
the South,
Bafumbira. But also, too, I think sometimes he remembers, maybe he has a way of remembering. You remember Sejusa. I think he has a way of remembering what sacrifices these people actually did. And as I say, this man has no power, has no influence, is no threat. Let's just let him walk.
We close it at that. We hope that...
but we hope that
we will have
justice will be served.
Prevail,
yes.
Because we are talking about names, but they represent families.
Yes,
they represent
these are stories.
Victims,
yes.
Very sad stories, and we hope that justice will be served.
Yes.
And we put it to the state to come out and make sure that indeed justice is served and seen to be served.
But also, I hope that it is going to become a lesson to these over-ambitious, over-zealous security officers who think that today, because I am DPC, I saw a DPC removing posters of Bobby Wine in Mbale, you know? Because today I wield some small kind of power, I am... You know, it is always going to be like this. No, let them learn. Let them watch, except that we don't learn from our history. But let them watch and learn that power can go anytime and you are under the law.
So we switch gears to the 2026 presidential election. And the latest update is that as per the last episode, we had over 80 people who had picked nomination forms. The list gets to 8 people and who have been successfully nominated. With the incumbent Yoweri Museveni, he has dropped that Muhoozi name, by the way, for this election. For the NRM, Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu for the NUP, Nandala Mafabi for the FDC, I should say the new FDC, and Mujisha Muntu ANT. And we have the other 4 gentlemen, Mubaraka Munyagwa for the Common Man's Party, the Lusania. And then we have John Elton Mabirizi, the man who made the news in 2021, and then 2016 actually, and Robert Kasibante for the National Peasants Party, and then Frank Bulira of the Revolutionary People's Party. Now, this list is a summary of the people that have been nominated from over 80 people that picked the nomination forms.
Are they just 80? I read somewhere.
I'm just saying over 80 because they were at one point 130, and I think the initial vetting got to 30, and then the people that passed all the requirements with the return of signatures of all the districts were these 8. Of course, there were complaints from other people who had returned the nomination forms and were cut out, including Muhammad Nsereko with his new party, including Katumba Oye, and a series of other gentlemen. And even Nancy Kalembe, and there's another young lady called Mpambara. All those have been complaining on how the system was done. We're going to discuss that in light of...
including Kabuleta and his
Kabuleta and yes. But we're discussing that in light of how the EC managed the nomination process vis-a-vis the reforms that had been advised by the Supreme Court when they were dealing with presidential election petition number 1 of 2021. Because if you already have complaints from opposition members, I think NUP was informed on a Friday evening at 7 about missing signatures. ANT was informed on a Saturday morning, and they basically had less than 48 hours to submit these signatures for them to be put on the list and the timetable for vetting. There were complaints, of course, coming in from the different opposition parties about that and how it was handled. And I think the only person that outrightly had signatures not questioned at all was the incumbent. What does that speak about the reforms that we are talking about in terms of what EC should be, the Independent Electoral Commission?
Well, I think that one, questions definitely have to be asked about the independence of the EC and their position now as the adjudicator, as the sole adjudicator of the election, brings us to a place where we don't know. Questions were being asked the other day. I saw Kabuleta asking, why can't I be nominated? I don't know if those parties have officially been told that you didn't get the signatures, or this was the problem, or this was the issue. People, they seem to not know why they could not pass the nomination process. And so when you add on the confusion with NT and NOPE, being told they don't have signatures, and then Muhammad Sereko asked a fundamental question. He asked how a person who got how many million votes? Nope.
Yes.
In the last election.
3.8, I think. Yes.
3.6 thereabouts. Throughout the whole country, could fail to raise the signatures all over the country in about more than 40 districts.
Actually got 3.6.
Yes. More than 40 districts. Could fail to raise signatures, and Mabirizi has signatures. And Kasibante has signatures. Yeah, that process is dodgy and shady. These people have offices in every district in the country, every region. You cannot say that they don't have. And then later, when they receive their certificate of nomination, it's actually backdated. It's actually dated,
yes,
Friday.
It's dated before they announced that they didn't have enough.
You start to wonder that if games are starting to be played at the beginning of the process,
what is in the pipeline?
Exactly. So the questions have to be asked. And it seemed, I also want to agree with Muhammad Sereko that it seemed as if the incumbent, in one way or the other,
chose.
Yes.
Chose who should compete against him.
Who should compete against him. And also, consequently, we are going to see that they're also going to choose how.
We discussed what makes
you
news,
can compete.
And during the UBC show, behind the headlines, a gentleman who was, of course, in studio with Salam Musumba and Badio Mus was discussing on how they have orchestrated the plan on how even the ballot paper would look like. That some of these people that you see are crying and have been nominated were specifically designed to confuse. I think there's a Robert somewhere.
Yes, Robert Kasibante.
Yes, Robert Kasibante.
And the party is NPP.
And then the party is NPP.
National Peasants Party.
By Robert
Chaguranyi of NUP.
Yes. And to make sure that anyone that would come above, it's even on the ballot, it's Museveni above as number, and then you can't go.
I thought Museveni is going to be
the last. The last. Yes, the last on the ballot paper. But the bigger picture and the discussion that we should be telling the viewers is, if the people that haven't been nominated, of course they have a right to be nominated, but I'm looking at the bigger picture and our democracy in Uganda. Is there anyone that wasn't nominated that would have a say on the election?
What do you mean a say? I think it's a constitutional right that if you have done the legal process of being nominated, you should be nominated. It doesn't matter whether you get 0.2%, whether you have no supporters. You have a right to come up. Your views, you have a right. There's so much. For example,
to present yourself on the job.
Because let me tell you, in the last election, although this gentleman of Need Party, Kabuleta, had really insignificant, but I enjoyed his speeches because they were really insightful. They were deep, and he's a very well-researched man. The same with Sereko. These are people that are able to actually create the civic education among the masses.
And talking about that, I think one of the most significant presidential candidates in 2016 was the late Viraro,
Yes.
who by percentage didn't do much, but shed light on very many Ugandans on the political status and what can be done to change the economic whims of the country. So it's not just even about the percentage. Democracy is way bigger than how
Yes,
it comes out,
exactly.
but how you've enlightened the population to present yourself as an option and even as a leadership option. Plus, we can't talk about Museveni in 86 without talking about Museveni's Uganda Patriotic Movement, the first
Yes.
time he stood as an MP.
Yes.
So it's not even about the first time they are coming to present themselves as options, but also in building their political story and
Yes.
shaping the political state. Because there's been an opinion that has been running, I think, on Twitter. I think Kanai Mugume ran one, Spire ran another, Kampala John and everything. And of course, there are 4 notable candidates that have been put on the ballot, excluding others. And it's been now Museveni, the order, Museveni, Bobby Wine interchanging the number 1 position, and Muntu and Nandala Mafabi for the FDC. PFF did present a candidate, and
Yes.
they are saying they are caucusing to see who they will rally behind. And also the DP, I think Mao was very clear. I think the nickname, the pumpkin, is taking shape, being green on top and yellow inside.
I think, to be honest, I mean, Ugandans are not blind. They can see
can
through
see what-
things. The
yes.
UPC, the DP, the FDC, DF. You know, I think
DF also chose
even
not
Mao
to.
was saying in one of the clips that they have a block. That those
Yeah,
ones have a block.
classified. The patriots and
Yes.
then the violent, angry ones.
So they have a block. So I don't think that we're expecting much from.
But it's even Mao was straightforward to say that personally for him, he would back.
I mean, he's a
himself, but he
minister.
does not-
He's
he
a
does not
minister.
back the position.
That is not news, because I mean,
I
he's
don't
a
know why
minister.
our director is pissed. But
He's a minister in the government. So I don't. If I was a minister in the same, I don't think that your position would be different. He sits in cabinet every Monday, so you want the regime to stay.
Nicholas, as we discussed that, I thought I would tell the viewers remind them of the statistics of the 2021 elections and 2016. Patrick Oboy Amuriat, Amuriat,
FDC.
yes. For the FDC then got 3.2%. He got around 337,000 votes. Kabuleta, 0.44. Kalembe Nancy Linda, who was actually blocked out of nomination for lack of signatures, 0.37. We actually have no lady in this race.
Yes, we
I
don't.
think viewers should know that. But notably, Chagulanyi Sentamu Robert got 35.08. That's 3.6 million votes. The incumbent got 6 million votes, representing 58.3%. Mujisha Muntu Gregory got 67,000 votes, representing 0.65%. The people that I've read are the ones that come again on paper from 2021, with the notable figures being Museveni's 58% and Sentamu's 38%.
And of course, the
You
change,
will be
the change
shocked,
from
actually.
Oboy to
Yes, from
Mafabi.
Oboy to Mafabi. You will be shocked that Bobby Wine in 2021 performed better than Besigye in 2016. Because in 2016, Besigye had
Allegedly.
I mean what was declared by the Electoral Commission. Besigye had 3.5 votes.
Million votes.
And Museveni had 5.9. By percentage, Museveni had 60%, and Besigye had 35.6%. We are discussing that in the force of the opposition politics in Uganda and the chance, even in the current landscape. I think NRM has borrowed the phrase, as the opposition and NUP saying protest vote, they have coined
Protecting the gains?
Their vote is a protection vote, to say that we are protecting the gain. So we're discussing that in light of the realities the opposition is working with and their chance of delivering change in Uganda.
Well, I think that it's been a song that has been sung for a long time from independent-minded opposition people, that the best chance the opposition has in this country is to field
A joint candidate?
But of course, that is not something that the regime will sit by and allow you to do. Because this is politics, Harold. The regime is going to sit down and allow you to organize.
Especially even with the rumor that some of the opposition people are planted.
Yes,
They will not
exactly.
form part of your bloc.
Exactly. But from 2001, I think the opposition has always voted in a bloc. Almost. You can call it almost a bloc. Although there are so many other, like last election, there was FDC, there was what, but you can say that the biggest bloc of 35 of
The
3.6 million, representing about,
for the last election?
Yes.
38%.
do you think about 38% went to NUP? The previous
35 actually, 35%. I beg your pardon.
2016, 38% went to Besigye, irrespective of these other opposition people that had fielded their candidates. So as a voice, I think opposition as a voice always goes in some kind of block. Although there are so many, there's a line of opposition candidates, that come, but also the reality on the ground is they play under very, very different circumstances.
I get you.
And
It's not a level ground.
So and as we go to nominations now, where we started, we can clearly see already a difference, in the ground, in the ground of the smooth process that the NRM has gone through, and what hurdles the opposition has have to skip, especially in NUP. Their signatures, and I want to applaud the leadership of NUP. They said between 8 and 11 tomorrow, people from these districts come.
Please come.
And
people show up and they have results.
And they have results.
That's a force.
Very, very big force. And you cannot, and these are the things that when the incumbent sees, you cannot skip that kind of thing. You cannot allow that to grow naturally. They give them a nomination for a later hour, which means the time for the rally is going to be short. The rally at Katwe is cancelled. I passed by Kavole that day. I was going to Yusuf Rure, and what was there was a military barracks. You could think
a mini one.
You could think, is this Machine or something? So that whole kind of intimidation, border guys were being arrested. Those of Aran Sewanyana, so many things were being done to tame, frustrate, intimidate. So that is, and as the campaigns now start to roll out.
I think even in our previous episode when we were talking about the arrests that had been done with the Mufumbiros, with the Eddie Mutwes, that it was orchestrated to sort of weaken them before you start the campaign trail. So it feeds into how the opposition is racing against two things: the vote and then also the system. Yes,
but also yesterday there was. I think there was the NRM had a thing
at Kololo.
At Kololo,
that was on Thursday. Yes,
the
converts, then the tax operators, I believe,
were coming, and then these converts are actually victims
of the regime itself.
Because
even the spokesperson for the converse was talking about how Museveni had forgiven them after arresting them for 4 years.
Yes. You arrest people, frustrate the justice process. They're not even clear on what charges they have been brought against, that they wanted to bomb people. No evidence, nothing. 4 years, you break their spirit.
But after breaking their spirit, story even in that line when
after breaking their spirit, now they submit to you totally. I don't know if.
But there are those with hard hearts, because the person who was holding an umbrella for Bobi Wine during nomination was among the 19 that had been, I think,
Olivia.
Was among the 19 that had been released. He said, "I'm just owning up this thing to get out and continue with the struggle."
Yes, exactly. But see, when these young men come 4 years later, you have lost literally everything.
I know.
So you're looking, because you see, when you talk about the struggle, when you talk about the people who, and I think would highlight that point when you come to the nominations, is that the difference in the people that were at Katwe, at Natete, and the ones that were at Kololo, the guys at Natete braved the rains, Nobody has been paid to come. There is no pilau to eat after.
They have braved tear gas and
tear gas and all manners of intimidation, and they are here, and they are here for a cause, for a purpose. And we saw videos of people at Kololo fighting for their rice,
Protecting
their grains, protecting the grains and partitioning the grains, you know. So when these people's spirits are broken and they come back, there is absolutely nothing to look to apart from, if we go to Kololo and say we have changed, there's like a 300
and it feeds
there's
into what
rent
Mutu was
that you
saying,
can, the rent that you can
uploads
pay.
the president is that he has broken the spirit and the dignity of Ugandans.
Yes.
Which is a sad story to tell and a very bad population to rule against.
Yeah. So as we go forward, we hope that anyway, there's no hope, because I was going to say we hope that the EC can become, but you can see how they have started.
On this very point, I just want to pick up your mind where you think, how do you think 2026 is going to play out?
I think this is going to be by far, and I said it on the previous episode, this is going to be by far, I think the true face of the NRM is going to come out in this election, and I had said that before. Because
what's the true face of the NRM?
I said before that the politics of Museveni had not been politics of brutality, of intimidation, of what. Most of the time it was
by
just
the opponents.
It was just buy off or arrest one guy at the top, like frustrate him. But you see, when protest becomes mass, when the sentiments of the masses start to shift, you know, the idea now doesn't just become get the lead and put them away, but also the people start to rise up. That's why even before the election starts, you don't have Eddie Mutwe, you don't have Mufumbiro, you don't have Nubianli, you don't have Bobby Giant. Those people are being arrested, you know. So I feel like when they and then you have Norbert Mao coming out, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, is starting to set new rules and say now there is no gari. This is a campaign period. How can you say that support that now you drive from, like, I don't know how many cars he says you drive. I don't know he says he means in which manner, because it's undefined. From Sekavure, you go to, so you don't go with anyone. You don't have border people following you, anyone raising your poster, you just drive.
And then the like gentlemen that were put in the other class somehow, Nandala Mafabi, had a right to wave to the trees.
No, this one says
from the campaign.
You drive, you go to, let's say the campaign is in Mukono. The people gather in Mukono, wait for you from there, you know. Where have they come? They don't want people coming from Kampala, like a gari.
Everyone remembers the picture of Besigye in 2016 seated in a sofa on top of the car.
Yes.
If you're building the NRM camp, that picture disturbs you. So you don't want to see Bobby Wine in that
They
state.
don't want that kind of procession, because processions bring perceptions. People start to understand that actually
the man is,
this person actually has power. Yeah. They have support. They are popular. Contrary to what we saw defections at Kololo, but the man still has people. So that is the kind of image, and that is why later, as we speak about transition, we're going to get to how dangerously close this is becoming to be the last general mass election.
So let's talk about that. Actually, we're switching to that just to save time. Let's talk about the transition. It's more evident and more likely that this is the old man's last time on the ballot.
I wouldn't say.
I've said more likely.
Yes.
And I know, of course, even Malawi, the president, the new president is 80 years old, who has defeated the incumbent. It's not even about the age, but maybe the rumors of the plans that are taking shape. So this, assuming that it's the last time that we see Kaguta's son on the ballot, and there are rumors of the Muhoozi project that is talked about, we discussed this in light of who was representing the neck for the NRM, and the youth coming in, the new faces, and the old guard coming out. And you're discussing this in light of the rumor that the parliament is also going to amend the constitution that is actually making 30 years next month, again, to remove universal suffrage, to ensure that it's the parliament that chooses the president, which would be an easier way to push the Muhoozi project. What do you think is the population ready to let that pass, or it's the camel that finally breaks the horse's back?
I think that
assuming all that is true and that's the plan,
I think that the stroke that breaks the camel's back, we are yet to see that. But the transition for me, how long? Let me ask you, how long has the Muhoozi project been in the piping.
The first time Sejusa talked about it was around 2012.
I think that, for me personally, this is what I think about. I think Museveni has not been very calculative. Consolidating his gains is not going to happen until he has secured the succession, because he can only consolidate his gains
by making sure that you
engineer a successor while you are still around to supervise. Even if Museveni step down right now, he would not be devoid of the power. The army responds to him, so that he can ensure. It's the same way how these guys who the rich people in town, the people that allow the transition, they get out of their properties, they allow the next generation to run them for a while they are still around. They don't get the same shock as when they die, and then the properties, now the people start fighting, debtors start coming in, swooping in. The transition has been phased in some kind of manner. So I thought that this would be Museveni's last term, to say, what, where I have reached, let me supervise a process that actually engineers a successor, and that is the only way that you can consolidate the gains of the last 40 years. What happened in Sudan to Bashir can actually happen here, and there is absolute, and at the end of that kind of process, you don't look back to any gains for all the years. Everything that he had done for all those years. Same thing as Gaddafi in Libya, were undone in just a matter of weeks.
Everything was done.
Just a matter of weeks. Why? Because you're too stubborn to actually say, what, we need to find some kind of transition, and the transition that sustains these gains that we have.
I did a post recently, and guys were laughing under it. We were having a Chimeza discussion, and we had someone who's closely linked with power in the Chimeza, and we were discussing transition and the story. A colleague asked him a very simple question and said, you personally, as someone representing power, what would you do right now if we were watching news and breaking news and they say, unfortunately, the old man has passed on? And he said, I would rush home to Kasangati, pick my bride and run to the village.
Exactly.
And that tells the whole story of how unsafe.
If you ask Ugandans right now, what would happen in that eventuality, nobody will say that they would go to the wherever and get the vice president and install her to see out the regime or follow the democratic process or the constitutional process. That
it's
that
very
is not going to
amorphous that no one knows how it would play out.
No one actually thinks that, because even a few people have imagined this country being run by a different person.
It would be very strange.
It would be strange to say that we are under a different regime, but that is how unsafe. Honestly speaking, so much has been gained in the last 40 years. So many things have happened since.
There are wins that are very notable.
So many wins have been notable, naturally. And of course, the things that, have happened over the last 40 years, but without a clear transition process. And you see, the mistake is going to, what the mistake is that is going to happen is, if this transition process, you cannot cut out popular support. And that's what they are trying to do if that rumor comes true of voting from parliament.
There's no cover
that enough. The universal suffrage, is suffocated.
There's no cover enough to cover an erupting volcano.
Yes. I think that to me might be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Okay, Nicholas, finally, what I wanted to discuss was the story of gangs. And there's been very many stories of gangs that are attached to primarily musicians or people that have been previously backed up by the state. We talked about what Boda Boda 2010 did, talked about Sipa Panda Camp, but now there's a new face in terms of musicians. I think one called Alien Skin, and there are murders that have been happening and counterattacks here and there from different camps that have led to the murder of different Ugandans and victims of people losing property and body parts, and the police seems to be seated. The fortunate bit is that it issued a statement about the recent death that happened as a result of the gangs that we are talking about, but everyone waits to see more that is done. What does it talk about the system and the readiness to fight crime?
And what does it talk about where we are going? I think that the evolution of gangs, like you mentioned, start with Boda Boda 2010. What does Boda Boda 2010 come to do? Boda Boda 2010 comes to metamorphose into the crowds of then Colonel Dr. Chiza Besigye, walk to work. They were the guys that were
employed to
hold
neutralize it.
to neutralize it on the ground. You know, that's how it metamorphoses. However, the resurgence of these gangs starts from last election. Museveni is a man who adapts depending on the circumstances, on the hand that has been played to him. When he was dealing with intellectuals, Besigye's, Mama Mbabazi's, everything, he would deal with them intellectually, you know,
and devise similar tools to
yes,
crack down.
And devise similar
strategy.
tools, yes, you know, deal with whatever promises they make, he deals with them, you know, that kind of thing. When Besigye came and said
graduated tax,
yes, graduated tax,
says it's okay,
he removed it. But now the resurgence of Noop and Bobby Wine and People Power brought a completely, it was a surprise phase
in form of a cult leader.
Yes, no, in form of the whole personality of the leader.
I understand. Unlike any other he had ever dealt with.
A ghetto-born child, not so intellectual, you know, musician,
known
countrywide, and definitely popular. And the base of his popularity is the ghetto people, is the marginalized people, the ghetto people. They see him as an inspiration. They see he has grown from grass to grace. They see him as a motivation. And so, and I was telling someone that Museveni, sometimes the animosity that is meted out to Noop is out of spite of how can I be competing with these kinds of people? The
bands that were used against him, the words that were used against him, the bandit.
Yes.
This bandit.
These are bandits, but he used to call them cockroaches, bandits from Rwanda, from, you know. He used to despise them because to him, he saw them as children, as people that should be bowing down to him, people that should be... I mean, I can't be reduced to competing against these kinds of people.
And 3 million people believe him.
Yes, and yes, and many people believe him. You know, if 3 million people, 3.6 million people is what was announced. Yeah. You know, the DF guy, Puga.
The first person he's getting to launch
the party. Can you imagine?
Next to the president.
Can you imagine? We're talking about national politics, and I think that's the problem that we have come to. National politics have really been vulgarized. That we are launching a party with alien skin. Really, really, really.
A national leader.
We are launching a party that apparently should have the message for the opposition, is pioneering.
And it's breaking away from the main opposition party.
Main opposition party, we want to do this. We are setting, electoral changes, and your partner is alien skin.
Who's at the time battling a court case?
He's battling a court case. He's into his own life. So I think that, and we are now going to see the gangs clash, because definitely some are state sponsored. That's why the same police at the same time when they were releasing the statement that someone was murdered in Alien's gang, Alien was singing for the president
at the same time in Kololo.
And the Kololo. So the guys were like, so the police is actually looking at the guy they are looking for, but they cannot arrest him. So that emboldens. I mean, you've seen so many things what has been happening here in Kavuri and Kamocha formerly. See Papa coming with his crew and beating people in plain sight of the police, and the police just waits for the reaction of the people inside being into,
Nicholas, I worry that we have to close it at that. Okay. I will ask for your parting shots as we head to this coming week, knowing that actually the official campaign trail starts in this week.
Yes, my parting shots are to rather Ugandans, really, to say that the destiny of a great country is in our hands. Let us not be intimidated. Let's rise. I don't know whichever party that you support. Don't
make your voice
count. Yeah, make your voice count.
Let's increase that voter turnout. Make your vote count.
If you're NRM, talk about protecting your gains. Talk about what the gains are.
How it would be. Yeah. How it should be, actually.
Try to woo the other people over. If you are NUP, ANT, like my brother here,
that is a rumor.
That is,
we are neutral here.
But let us be conscious of the times and seasons that we're in as a country.
Exactly.
And take part
what
as a
is at
people. Let's
risk?
not be, let's be proactive. Let's not be the guys that are just there.
Passive
Citizens.
citizens.
And the people that are setting the trend for the country is Aryan skin. No, let's rise to the occasion, especially as the elites and intellectuals and, people that are affected by real issues, roads, healthcare. At the end of the day, real issues will actually, affect you whether you put your voice out or you do not. But I want to rally us in this season. Let's just make our voices count. It's a civic duty. Let's stand up to our civic duties and actually participate. Otherwise, stay safe and may God bless you and make your path straight.
Thank you very much. We are in the election season. We want to tell you that the average of the last 3 elections, for every 10 Ugandans that register to vote, 4 do not turn out. I think it's a statistic that we should change as you participate in making your voice count. That has been it for the Checkmate this week. We look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you for tuning in. Continue to subscribe and share this for everyone to come and learn a thing or two on what is happening in Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.